You know how sometimes you bump into a word and it feels significant, maybe a bit fancy, but you're not totally sure exactly what it means.
Yeah, like you get the general vibe, but the specifics are fuzzy.
Exactly. Well, that's what we do here on the deep dive, and today we're focusing on one of those very words, OEUVRE. We've got our sources lined up, and the mission is simple. Figure out what this word really means and why it matters.
All right, so kicking things off, what's the basic definition we're working with?
Okay, so at its simplest, an oeuvre is a work of art. Pretty straightforward.
But, and there's usually a but,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of sense it's often used for something bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just like one painting or a single song.
Right, that's the more common usage, definitely. When people say oeuvre, they usually mean the entire body of work from a creator, an artist, a writer, composer, filmmaker.
The whole collection.
Yeah.
Everything they put out there creatively over their lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you talk about, say, Hitchcock's oeuvre, you're not just talking Psycho, you're talking all his films, his TV work.
Yeah.
The complete picture.
Gotcha. The full scope.
And just a quick note before we dive deeper, you might see this word spelled a couple of ways. Sometimes oeuvre, sometimes with that joined up ooh ligature thingy.
The
Yeah. Our sources say both are totally fine, just a heads up.
Good to know. Just a style thing then. Okay, so let's dig into these sources. We've got some books listed that actually have oeuvre right there in the title. What can we glean from those?
All right, first up is L'Œuvre, a novel by Émile Zola. The title itself, just the work, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is the book about making art, maybe the whole creative struggle?
That's interesting, like a novel about the very concept of an oeuvre, perhaps, exploring what goes into creating a body of work.
Could be. It feels almost meta. Then we've got a few simply titled Œuvre. One by Émile Cioran, one by Auguste Bruzot, another by Laurent Perriand.
Just works. Very direct.
Yeah, no messing about. It's like they're saying, here it is, this is the stuff. It suggests the collection itself, the totality is the main point.
It definitely emphasizes the idea of looking at the creator's output as a whole unit, doesn't it? Invites you to see the connections across their career. And again, you see that spelling variation even in the titles.
Right. It really drives home that point about the complete body of work being significant. Okay, so moving on slightly, the sources also have this see also section. Lots of related terms here.
Yeah, this looks interesting. It kind of branches out. Where should we start? Maybe chef d'oeuvre. We usually just say masterpiece.
Good one. So how does a masterpiece fit in with an oeuvre?
Well, I kind of see it like this. The oeuvre is the whole mountain range.
Yeah.
And the chef d'oeuvre, the masterpiece, that's the highest peak. It's that one work, or maybe a few works, within the entire output that really gets singled out as the best, the most acclaimed.
I like that analogy. So an artist might have a huge oeuvre, but only one or two things widely considered their masterpiece. It's the defining work.
Exactly. Then, okay, this one seems random at first.
Hors d'oeuvre.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the appetizer, what's that doing here? Seems totally unrelated to art. I thought so too. But then you look at the literal French outside the work.
Ah, okay, I see it now.
Right. It's the little bite before the main meal, the main work. So it subtly reinforces that oeuvre means the central, substantial body of work. Clever, huh?
That is clever.
Yeah.
A little linguistic clue hiding in plain sight. Okay, what's next? Oeuvre completes. Complete works. We see names like Georges Bataille, Louis Racine, Saint-Just, both listed.
Yeah, complete works. That sounds pretty definitive. It suggests a real effort to gather everything a writer or thinker produced. The whole lot.
Absolutely. For anyone doing serious study, having the oeuvre completes is like the ultimate resource, isn't it? You can trace how their ideas developed over time, see all the connections.
It's about capturing the entire intellectual legacy, warts and all, maybe. It must be a massive task to compile those.
No doubt. It shows a real commitment to preserving someone's full contribution. Okay, then we get into some institutions. The Musée de l'Œuvre Notre-Dame in Strasbourg, also called Œuvre Notre-Dame.
This feels a bit different, doesn't it? Not about one person's art.
Right. Here, oeuvre seems to refer more to the ongoing work or project. The Œuvre Notre-Dame was historically the organization responsible for building and maintaining the Strasbourg Cathedral.
Oh, okay. So their oeuvre is the cathedral itself and the continuous effort involved in its upkeep.
Exactly. It's the collective long-term work of the institution, a bit like a mission or undertaking.
That makes sense. Then there's the Théâtre de l'Œuvre in Paris, a playhouse.
This seems more directly tied to artistic output again, but maybe collectively. The theater's oeuvre could be the body of plays they've produced over the years, the specific artistic vision they represent.
Yeah, their contribution to the theater world as a whole, the sum of their productions.
Makes sense. Then, this one's interesting. Œuvre de secours aux enfants, a World War II humanitarian group.
That's another surprising one. How does OEUVRE fit there?
Well, here it seems to mean the organization's work in the sense of their efforts, their undertaking. Their OEUVRE was the significant humanitarian task they performed, rescuing children.
So it's about the impact and the result of their actions, not necessarily art, the work they did in the world.
Precisely. It broadens the meaning beyond just creative output to encompass significant, purposeful action and its results.
Okay, next up, catalogue raisonné. Sounds very formal, very art world specific.
It is quite specialized, yeah.
Yeah.
A catalogue raisonné is basically the ultimate, super detailed listing of all the known works by a single artist.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything they can find and verify. It includes details like dates, materials, dimensions, ownership history, exhibitions, publications, the works. It's like the definitive encyclopedia for one artist's oeuvre.
That sounds incredibly useful for researchers and collectors, but a huge amount of work to create one.
Absolutely massive. It's a major scholarly undertaking. Then we see the complete works and collected works listed again. These feel like the English versions of oeuvres completes, right?
Yeah, seems pretty direct. Complete suggests aiming for absolutely everything, maybe collected, could be a bit more selective, but still substantial. Same basic idea, though, gathering the works together.
Agreed. Then there's opus. Now that makes me think of music.
Me too. Like Beethoven's Opus 18 string quartets or something.
Exactly. Opus is commonly used, especially in classical music, to number a composer's works, often chronologically. So an opus is a single work within the composer's larger output, their oeuvre.
So it's related, but opus usually refers to one piece, while oeuvre is the whole collection.
Precisely. And finally, just a quick note in the sources about Louvre disambiguation.
Right, just clarifying that the famous museum, the Louvre, is spelled similarly, but is a totally different word and concept. Don't get them mixed up.
Good clarification. So, wow, looking back, oeuvre really does cover a lot of ground. From a single piece to an entire lifetime's output to the ongoing work of an institution, even humanitarian efforts.
Yeah, it's a really flexible and significant term. But that core idea, the most common one, is definitely about the entirety of a creator's work, considering the whole picture.
Definitely. And thinking about the oeuvre helps you see patterns, evolution, the big themes that might run through someone's career. You get a much richer understanding than just looking at one or two famous pieces.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the whole conversation the creator is having over time.
Well put.
Okay, so quick wrap up. Oeuvre can be one artwork, but usually means the entire body of work of a creator. We saw it in titles like Zola's L'Œuvre and collections called Œuvre.
We linked it to chef d'oeuvre, masterpiece, as the peak within the oeuvre, and even found that surprising connection to hors d'oeuvre.
Right. And we talked about oeuvre completes or complete collected works as ways to gather that entire output. We also saw how institutions like the Oeuvre Notre Dame or Théâtre de l'Œuvre use the term.
And even humanitarian groups, highlighting significant undertakings. Plus, the importance of the catalogue raisonné for documenting an artist's full oeuvre, and the related musical term opus.
Phew. Covered a lot. It really shows the depth packed into that one word.
It really does.
So here's something to maybe mull over. Think about a creator you really admire. Could be anyone, a musician, director, scientist, writer. When you consider their entire oeuvre, their whole body of work, what patterns jump out at you?
Like what themes keep popping up? How did their style change over time?
Exactly. Looking through that lens of the complete oeuvre, it can really change how you see their contribution, can't it? Gives you a whole new perspective to explore.